floor is yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I didn't really ask for much of anything different. Doug wanted a flat budget. I give a flat budget. The only thing I wanted was we had one employee that had left, that was making a higher salary, so I wanted to up a couple in my office. That was it. So.
I appreciate you coming in with a flat budget. It's really important, especially now. It means a lot. Anybody have anything? Questions?
Just one thing I was going to point out, of your positions, you've got a couple, like, I guess, your auditor position, Paula's position, Caitlin's position, or county only. I was kind of giving them the example that, the state may give comp board employees an X amount of raise. That doesn't cover everybody in your department.
Right.
That in order for us to be equitable here, you give everybody in the department. I'll go down there in your office. I can't tell which ones are.
No.
They don't wear a different colored shirt or a button or something like that. You're all employees of the Commissioner of the Revenue, so it gets a little tough. But have you heard what the state, the latest is for local employees?
They're going to do something, but I just don't know how much.
Okay. That'll offset anything we're able to give. We'll have to give something where you don't be able to get that back from the state, but hopefully across the board, whether it's all constitutional officers, hopefully we'll provide some additional increase for next year.
So you have three that are all county.
Are you planning on, I couldn't quite hear, you said the vacant position you're gonna fill it, or?
Yes.
Here's one.
I had one person that was out sick, and I wanted them to sit in on the interview. So that's kind of what it
What's the position?
It's in the real estate office.
And that's
I had a
because-
retiree.
That's because of a retirement in December.
Yes. It's been a little busy down there since reassessment.
Hey, I appreciate the way you've done this.
You're
Really.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. All.
Thanks, Sharon. Come on, Miss Carol.
When's she gonna get to move? When's she gonna get to move?
Soon.
Good morning.
Good morning. 5. Number 5.
Here we are. I want to thank you all for your support. The new location looks really good, and I'm really
I
excited.
can't wait to see it.
Well, I know Doug had asked for a flat budget, and we tried to do that, but there are a couple things that I have asked for that you all will probably see simply because of the cost of the vendors have gone up some. Ballot costs have gone up like 2 cents per ballot. These are things we have no control over. The warranties and the firmware and things like that have gone up like $25, but those overall aren't real large expenses, but they are expenses that we'll have to make up. The other thing that I just want to make you aware of too is probably because we go into 2020, we will have a primary that will affect this budget, a presidential primary, so there'll be extra costs that we maybe don't normally have because of that in a regular election cycle. That would mean we'd have 3 elections, including that, because there is a primary every presidential year.
Do we get any state compensation?
Sometimes we get some reimbursements from a presidential primary, but we never know until after, so we actually have to fund it first. And generally in the presidential, you do 100% ballots. We do that a lot in November elections because you want to make sure you have enough ballots for anyone that turns out to vote. And that's what we want. We want a good turnout, so we always hope that. Equipment maintenance, again, that's another one of the costs. Most of them are, I guess, considering the full thing, it's only, several $1,000s. I know that's still a lot of money, but overall, we've tried to keep it down. I did ask for a level increase for the full-time assistant in their office because I think to kind of, I know we've just gone through that pay study, and I don't know what the results of that will be. We did have a few problems getting the data entered in for her because it just, we would think it was there and then it wasn't there, and so I don't know if there was a software issue. I don't know if other departments had it, but I don't know what the result of that would be, but I think that certainly it's justified for that position. Going on 6 years, I think, yeah. But basically, those are the reasons for what I've asked for in there. One thing I have just found out as of yesterday, and I know the legislature hasn't completed and all the bills haven't been passed yet, but we're expecting a no reason absentee voting, at least probably the last week of voting. And that's probably going to increase some of our costs because when you have no absentee, they can come in and vote for any reason. That's going to mean more people coming in to vote, which means I'll probably have to have more staff during that time. Now, whether it's just for that 1 week, I won't know until we get the legislation is handed down, and then possibly it'd be delayed maybe, for this election. We don't know. We don't know what the ramifications will be because it'll be turned over to the state to look at how to implement it. No reason for, I don't know yet. They said possibly a week. If it's longer than that, it gets very busy as it is, but no reason. And I think the reason that they've been, we don't object to it at all as officers, but they have to realize that there is a cost that comes along with it, and I don't know that that's part of the state's plan to provide any funding for that. But just so you are aware, that's possibly something that's not in my budget because I wasn't aware it was coming down.
Typically, absentee voting is a period of time. So
It's a period. It's actually 45 days out, but there's a reason, and there's a lot of reasons.
Right.
But this has been something they've been back and forth on for a number of years, and the only we've never objected to the no excuse. We just want funding to help the localities with that. With that being said, we don't know that that's going to happen. We don't know what the final legislation is going to be, but regardless if it's passed, we will be obligated to provide whatever we need to.
Yeah, you could get a long line.
Well, yeah, we're hoping that,
Technically.
the one good thing I can say is that we now will probably have space to handle some of the longer lines and more voters. That will be nice. Did you all have any questions?
No, just a comment. I appreciate you drilling your numbers down to where you even show a $5 or a $15 deviation. I mean, that kind of attention to detail means a lot.
Well, I
appreciate
look
it.
at it, I do look at the cost and just try to do it just like I would for my own budget if I'm trying to spend my own money. So I look at it that way.
And you are spending your own money.
Well, it is, but like, you have to, I kind of try to justify it just like I
Sure.
would for,
Bro.
and use coupons or whatever we have to do, take advantage of sales. And
Mhm.
So when are we moving?
we're not quite sure yet. We're getting there. We're packing up some things right now, so.
Depends on furniture delivery.
Yeah, and that was just ordered and stuff, but it's a good time.
Mr. Fox?
The voting machines that you're using now, do they seem to be something that will be in place for some time to come?
It will. I expect, usually the life of most voting machines is about 10 years. It depends on legislature, what they decide to do as far as changing, the requirements.
Right.
We had another thing that was handed down to us this time that we had to do that luckily our machines were capable of doing. But a lot has to do with legislature and what they require. And can we handle it, and can the machines, They were designed based on what the requirements were at the time they were selected. So we'll just have to, and anytime they go through a software change, it has to go through a certification process. So, but hopefully they'll be at least maybe 10 years. We're hoping.
So, anybody else? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Ken's on our way down.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've had a few department heads, constitutional officers have asked, like Carol, for a specific increase. We've adjusted that down to a 2.5% step for those cases. Some were more or less, but we've kind of equalized them. So that's why you see there for Pam's position, we should increase. We recognize that Carol wants to recognize her dedication and work, but just try to equalize it from that standpoint.
She practically lives there.
Yeah,
She beats me in the morning.
That's all.
I think she lives here.
See her there on Saturdays.
He finished that up.
They remove a little too quick. Run a few minutes ahead.
Everybody had like somebody damage that stuff all over.
Everything will break then? Mr. Chairman, everything will break while we're waiting?
Sure can.
Coming up.
Take 5.
Absolutely.
Please.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am,
morning.
of course, DeAnna Cheatham, Director at Warren County Social Services. And to my right, I have my advisory board chair, Mr. Cullors. Thank him absolutely for joining me today. Before you, you have, of course, lots of numbers, very important numbers in regards to the budget. And I'd be, more than happy to answer any questions that you all have and to point out any figures. But one of the most pressing things that I have before you this morning is an alarming vacancy rate. Right now, I will have likely by the end of the week 1 Child Protective Services worker, and that is it. I will not have any foster care workers. I do not have any adult protective services or adult service workers. I have a 90% vacancy rate by the end of this week. And just in case you're not sure what that means that my staff, including 2 supervisors, including myself, will be working their regular shift. In addition to their regular shift, that means that any call that comes in, because we are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like police department, sheriff's department, and fire and rescue, that means that they will be not going home, that they will be going out to handle the call, and then having to respond to work the next day. That's not safe, that's not healthy, that's not providing the best quality of service that I have to be able to offer.
And you have bunks in the office.
We're getting ready to have to start putting bunks and a shower. And these are people with families, so it's not just a matter of, them taking time out of personal life because, they just want to go hang out. They've got families, they've got kids, they've got husbands, they've got health issues. The staff that are leaving, they're leaving predominantly because of salaries. I've got some that are leaving because of salaries and work hours, because of that 24-hour-a-day requirement. The ones that aren't leaving because of salaries and because of work hours, to be perfectly honest, are leaving because of the stress. We have kind of a residual effect now because we've got the staff that have been there. They've gotten not just, a little burnt out, they are crispy around the edges. So when I'm running a staff of 3, that means they're pulling more than a week of on call at a time in addition to their regular time. So I know you all have been diligently looking at salary increases. I cannot stress enough. I know that, we talk about schools and the raw number of the data of how many teachers are actually, vacant, how many vacant teachers positions. Our raw numbers aren't as large because our population, my staff numbers aren't as large, but when you look at the percentage, you can walk through my halls on the service side right now and you can hear the echo and you can see the stress and the strain on their faces. If you'll look at our budget sheet, you will see there's not a lot of change. The biggest change is for the increase in salary, and that's because of the two positions, the two expanded Medicaid positions that we were provided from the state last year. I dare say that it was rumored that we would be able to potentially get additional money this year for that. I use that term kind of loosely because yes ma'am, until I actually see that amount in writing, I don't want to confirm or deny, so I'd much rather be safe than sorry. Right now, my benefits staff is fully staffed with the exception of one fraud investigator position, and that position interviews are for tomorrow for that. You'll also see that we've got an increase of costs in 53,810, which is that services for other government entity. It's not a lot of money. It says 71%, and that's solely because of turnover. The more people that we have that leave, that means the more people that we're hiring, which means more background checks, more IDs. It's just additional cost to get them in the door. Likewise, you'll see that there's been a decrease of 96.6% for our postal services. That is largely attributed to, if you all recall, a couple of years ago, we went with a banking system. That banking system, every time there was a change in case manager, required additional letters to be sent out, required additional notices to be sent out. That is no longer the case. We're no longer banking in that system. And in addition to that, a large majority of our postage is on things that are being sent through Central Print out of Richmond. Another one of our larger expenses that you will see is 55540. Which is travel, convention, and education. There again goes along with turnover. So when you're looking at the added cost, when you're looking at the increase in salaries, or even just the increase in the amount of money that I'm requesting, that money continues to increase on the back end, not just on the front end. The need for additional staff requires additional training, requires additional travel, requires additional car repair, requires additional gas. So it's not just a one-time expense. In addition to staff that have been there taking mental health days, or right now I'm nursing a sore throat, and hopefully I'm not contagious, but nursing a sore throat, but that's additional time. And I do have a very dedicated, loyal staff, but at the end of the day, staff has to be able to take care of their families. I have staff that receive benefits at the agency. I should not have staff that receive benefits at the agency. Not that there's anything at all wrong with it. We should be able to pay them enough to be able to afford to live self-sufficient without additional government assistance. Just to kind of add to that, you'll see for vehicle expense, 56,009, just like I was just saying, additional expense of, it went up 110% for that additional mileage and vehicle car repairs. We are anticipating, hopefully with some leftover money, because we have so many vacancies, of purchasing another vehicle, which hopefully will cut down on some of those constant repairs. Did you all have any questions before my allotted time?
Was it 7 vacancies?
Right now we're up to 8, sir.
8?
Yes, sir. Yesterday afternoon I received another notice, and this was from someone that had been with the agency 6.5 years. And this one person has actually indicated that they're not only taking a pay cut, which is ironic, but that they're leaving because of their personal health. The added stress from the job of having to be on call the additional amount of time is taking a strain on their health, their family's health, and that they're having to find other employment. They found other employment.
Is it in social services?
It's not in social services. And the scariest part about some of this is that it does lead to a bigger systemic problem when you look at the Virginia Department of Social Services, because lots of the people that have left, that have gone to other agencies, actual DSS agencies that are making more money, they would never have been looked at 2, 3, 4 years ago because they did not have the experience. They'd not completed their first year training. They'd not even gotten off of probation. Where before we could at least say that we could keep people for 2 years and then maybe, get some turnover. The most recent one, she'd been there not even quite, well, just a little bit over 6 months. 6 months. She's not had a first evaluation. She's not completed her 12-month training, and she's already going to another agency making $18,000 more. So when I say there's a substantial difference, and this is not just an amount of $18,000 because somebody pulled it out of the air. This is a documented amount. And this is the offer. I have the ability to make match offers if someone were to come in and say, hey, this is my offer, can you match it? The problem that I run into with that is that if I were to have offered this person that much money, they would have been making what my supervisors are making with 16 years of experience. And she has not even a year.
Part of the problem is that you can't partially match,
Right.
just to try to get a little more competitive, to hope they would stay. DeAnna's hands are tied from the standpoint of the state that's
State.
allowed to do.
It's either a match or it does not exist.
And usually if somebody's mind is made up to leave, no matter what you offer,
Well, and I'll
or
tell
they
you.
may stay for the short time, but they're gonna go.
And I will tell you, I've been able to actually make one match with one of my benefits workers. They did not want to leave. They stayed. I was able to make that match just because of where she already was and what have you. But for someone that hasn't been there 6 months, this staff member had a number of years already with social services. So, that was something that I could absorb, but not with somebody that hasn't been there and hasn't even completed the training. And the sad part with this particular person is that they want to stay. They have reiterated it time and time again. They want to stay. They like where they work. They like the people that they work with. They cannot afford to live. Their student loans, they're wanting to start a family. They cannot afford to live off of what we're paying. And then when you look at, our retirement system, $33,000 may even sound like a lot, but when 5% of that is going to retirement, that's additional money that they're not seeing. So.
On the positive side, I think you've had 2 employees that have left us and come back.
Exactly. I've got 2 part-time employees right now that came back as emergency hires. And I've got 2 more, one that's already been interviewed and one that an interview is scheduled for next week, that are wanting to come back, that they've left and gone to other places and are wanting to come back to the agency. So I think, the flip side of that is the grass is not always greener on the other side. Of course, the other thing is that, when people sometimes come back, they also know that they can negotiate for a higher salary because at least now they have some experience.
That helps you.
It does. It absolutely does, because when we look at training, it takes, in all honesty, 2 years for a staff member that's on the services side to be able to run a case pretty much independently. After a year, they at least have the basics. On the benefit side, in 6 months, they could, in less than 6 months, in 3 months, they can start running Medicaid cases all by themselves or SNAP cases all by themselves, and then have the supervisor to approve them. But when you're looking at family services cases, there is literally a laundry list of training that they have to get. Coming out of school with a degree does not just give them everything that they need to be able to not just interact with the families, but to also deal with the issues, manage the issues, find the resources, write the service plans, be able to present the case to FAP, be able to come to treatment team meetings. It's far more involved. And when you're working with families, it's not just numbers. You're having to deal with the family's issues, and they change. You're dealing with the onion level. There's not just one issue. There's never just one issue.
Multiple personalities.
Absolutely. And then, the effect we've talked before about the opioid addiction and the opioid crisis. It's very stressful. My staff, and I know people say, fire and rescue, police department, sheriff's department, they also go out 24 hours a day. They also run shifts. They also have additional staff that they can go home and then they can come back, or they've got a second shift that's coming in, even if it's 12 hours. They also will be out all times of the day and night. They're out with my staff. But I don't have enough people to run one shift, much less a backup shift.
And emergency removals.
That requires sometimes 3 people at one time. I can have somebody at the hospital, somebody at the house, and somebody trying to find a placement. If I were to do that, by the end of this week, that would be my entire staff who's going to be at work the next day. They are. They're going to be there trying to help and to support each other, but that cannot last. I have done that. That cannot last.
Don't lose faith, because if they're coming back, that means you did something right that brings them, I'm serious, that brings them back. People leave for money, for a work environment, sometimes just for a change, but if they're coming back to you, you've done something right to help bring them back, and you hope you're going to get more.
I certainly hope so, and I'm hoping that I'm able to kind of meet their salary requirement, and I use that term loosely as well, when they come back, because I don't like people, my staff will tell you I do not just like a warm body. I don't like a cold toe tag body either, but at this point in time, I'm very much to the point of we need a body. I need a body. Interns are more than welcome, and I've said that multiple times. I had someone to contact me just last week in regards to an intern. The only problem that the intern faces is that they can't go out and do the mandatory casework. They can't go out and get so that the agency gets credit for the visits. They can help with the paperwork and some of the clerical things, which is just as important when we're looking at moving forward with getting adoptions finalized and making sure documentation is up to date. But I also need the staff to be able to physically go out and get the visits, make sure that our kids are seen and that our elders and everybody are okay.
I had our new chair, Bob Cullors, is chair of our advisory board. He took over for Bill Crawford. Bill kind of aged off. He was limited to 2 terms on the advisory.
Aged off. We hate that term.
We got a younger guy in there.
Exactly.
Well,
I hope we aren't left like the young married lady who woke up with a start and her husband asked her, what's the matter, dear? And she says, I dreamed that you gave me a pearl necklace for Valentine's Day. What does that mean? And her husband said, well, you'll find out tonight. And that night he brought home a beautifully wrapped package. She excitedly opened it up, and it was a book called The Meaning of Dreams.
Ooh.
Yeah, right.
Touche.
It seems like it wasn't that long ago, Commissioner Tom Mills. It seems like it wasn't that long ago when we became Justice City, basically fully staffed. How long ago was that?
About 6 months ago.
That's what I was thinking. And then all of a sudden it seemed like the bottom dropped out.
And so what's happening is that Frederick County and Winchester have got multiple vacancies, multiple openings, multiple postings. Where their staff is going, I can only guess that maybe they're either going to completely other positions outside of DSS, or they're going to the Fauquier and the Loudons. Or they could actually be going to other agencies, even local agencies, because they now have the experience and they're able to apply for, like, say, a 3 position, a senior level position. From what my staff that has been there any length of time has told me, that this has happened at least one other time in the past, where it was like all of a sudden we were fully staffed and we looked like they were, we're on a good place, and then all of a sudden everything was gone. It comes in ebbs and flows, because a year ago it was the benefits side that we had all these vacancies. Now benefits is pulling really, really strong, doing a great job, and now it's services side.
Which is probably more stressful.
I hate to say more, because I've done it, I could be a little bit biased or what have you, but I would say it's a different kind of stress. And it does not help when you see the eligibility staff, they've done their job, and at 4:30, 5 o'clock, they're walking out the door. And I've got services staff that's trying to go to the bathroom or eat lunch, to be perfectly honest. And, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 2 a.m., they're still trying to figure out which end is up. So,
Keep the faith.
absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a job to do.
And we appreciate what you do.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyone
Any
else?
questions?
Have a great one.
Thank you. If you are looking for some side or part-time employment, please feel free to apply.
I think my wife called you.
She did. She did. I didn't want to put you out there, but yes, she did. I talked to her, so hopefully your daughter will be giving me a call.
Okay.
That'd be great. And maybe one of your friends. That'd be fine.
Make friends too.
I know. Thank you all.
Thank you.